Hello, and thank you for joining me in today's video. So, recently I had an opportunity to practice a conversation with a vegan live, which I've never done before. And so I was really excited to have that opportunity. Oh, I just realized. And the video is actually on a channel that's not mine. So it's on a channel called Reasonable Vegan. I posted a video. The person that I had the conversation with, his name is Michael. And on a video that I posted, he asked in the comments, hey, can we have a conversation? And so he wanted to have it on Reasonable Vegan's channel. And so we arranged it through email and we had the discussion. Now, I'll admit, I was very cranky. The first problem was that I had been up since 4:30 in the morning, and it took place at 11 and then it ended at 12:30. So that's the first problem. And the second problem is actually a personal thing. It's simply something about me. Naturally in life, if I'm not feeling a situation, you will see it. It doesn't matter what the situation is. I could be at work, I could be at home having a party with everybody. If I'm not feeling a situation, you will be able to see it. So it wasn't just that I was tired, but no matter how much I tried to prepare myself for the conversation, in the back of my mind, I just had the worst feeling about it. And so that showed in it. One of my personality traits is that I really don't like trivial things. Like I don't want to feel as though I'm wasting my time. And I just had this feeling that I couldn't shake, and that just got stronger and stronger as we were having the conversation, that it was a waste of time. But actually, I don't consider what happened to be a waste of time. I've actually watched the conversation back numerous times, and I feel that there's something that can be said for the conversation that was had, and I'd like to express that today. So the topic of this video is about gaslighting, and what do I mean by that? The gaslighting doesn't just happen on account of vegans to people who are not vegan. The gaslighting also happens with vegans to themselves, and I'll try to explain as a process. If you saw the debate, then this will make more sense. If you didn't, I'll try to make it make sense out of context. So basically, how it works is we want to figure out what is the best diet for us to have. And so different people start in different places. Vegans are starting with what they consider to be the science, right? That is basically the end all be all, right? That is the golden standard for them. The science. What does the data say? They use studies, and studies are, I personally do not consider studies to be evidence, but I recognize that because you can have like non-circumstantial or circumstantial evidence or whatever. There's some kind of evidence that's very weak, and if we keep giving it the label evidence, it sounds stronger than it really is. And when it comes to nutrition science, the research that is done is incredibly weak, and there's more than one reason for that. Okay. The main reason is that humans are incredibly difficult to do legitimate experiments on. So what we have are a bunch of hypotheses. We have what we call quote unquote educated guesses. It's like expert opinion, right? So the expert doesn't know, but the expert just gives their opinion, right? And that is not strong enough quote unquote evidence or proof of anything on its own, especially not on its own. In any case, it isn't as though it doesn't matter at all. So if you're on the jury, you can hear the expert opinion, you can hear what the general theory is about what happened, and you try to ask yourself, okay, so is this feasible? Is it possible? Do I have reasonable doubt? You still have to do some critical thinking even after you receive that information. And this is the point where I think we would branch off. So when I was talking with Michael, we both established that it's a good place to start. But then I feel like he and a lot of vegans, not every one of them, but they just kind of stop there. And then it just remains the truth for them in their mind. And not only is that not the case in real life generally, that's not how science is supposed to work. And basically, no matter what even if it's as strong as a theory, we still don't say it's a fact. We still wait until we get more information, because we can discover something new at any given time. So scientists are not meant to speak definitively about almost anything. We tend to, because as humans, we love to exaggerate and pretend like we know more than we really know. We also don't like to be wrong. And that means that people will speak very strongly. They will say, this causes this, or this has this % risk or something. But that science cannot actually tell us anything even remotely related to that. It tells us, okay, I'm exaggerating. It may tell us something that can get us somewhere close, but it does not tell us anything definitively. Not definitively enough for us to make it our golden standard, to make it the end all be all. Long story short, the type of research that we are capable of doing right now, and there are a lot of limitations, and it's just a virtual impossibility for us to go any further than what we're basically doing right now. It cannot inform any individual, especially on risk, and it also cannot inform any individual on hard health outcomes for themselves. And so it's very dangerous and it's very misleading, because you can wind up putting an innocent person in jail, assuming that the information that the expert gave you was the case, was the truth. But it turns out that it's a stepping stone. It's just one piece of the entire puzzle. So then what do we do? What comes next? If we can't rely on science to give us any outcomes, we basically have to rely on real life outcomes. And what does that boil down to for me? So Michael felt it was like unreasonable for me to say that, it's anecdotes, because anecdotes vary very wildly. And, people will acknowledge that anecdotes are useful, but the data, the scientific research, is supposed to take these anecdotes and put them together and then turn them into something useful. And like I said before, yeah, I don't not acknowledge that, and I don't ignore that. I understand that it's there for that reason. But because there are so many confounding factors, an individual person won't really know for themselves what the outcome is going to be until they try it. And sometimes even when we have our hypothesis, once we actually give it a try, we find more information that lets us know that we weren't really right in the first place. And that's the reason why I cannot, really put my heart or, my soul or whatever to say that I believe strongly almost anything that comes out of nutrition science just as it is. I need to see things play out. And then that would be the reason why I would go from being agnostic to choosing a side or to choosing a position. So initially, if I hear something, if I don't know heads or tails, I don't know. But if I have been given some indication in the lives of the people around me, in the history of humans on planet Earth, or from my own personal experience, for example, that will give me a reason to say more definitively, for example, sugar is poison. The best way for a person to know for themselves what their outcome is going to be is for them to try it themselves. And this is what I want to really pinpoint when I'm talking about the gaslighting part. If you are talking to another human being and that human being says, in the very beginning, I looked at the research and the data and I listened to vegans and I believe very strongly in their cause and I believed very strongly in what they were putting forth. And I agreed with them about the science as well. And so I decided to try a plant-based diet, but my health was failing. Okay, you hear a person say that. What you are supposed to do, if you are a decent human being and you understand how basic communication works, is just accept what they said and kind of move on from there. The gaslighting part comes in where it's like, but the research says something. And as I mentioned before, and this is just a fact of life, once again, I'm the messenger here. This is not my opinion. The research cannot tell me as an individual what my result is going to be. Me trying the diet is what tells me what my individual result is going to be. And the same thing goes for vegans. There was one point in the conversation where there was kind of like there was no meeting of the minds. And that was when he asked, why do I say that so many vegans fail or quit their diet? And I tried to cite something to appease him because I could recognize at that point that he's just going to keep drilling until he gets me to give him something. And the same thing that happened when he was trying to give me some data happened when I tried to give him some data. Basically, he nitpicked at it and told me why it didn't work, why it wasn't reliable enough. And that's basically what it boiled down to. This is why I didn't want to have a quote-unquote debate. I only wanted to have a discussion. And this is why I didn't want it to be about, cite me. Because basically all of the nutrition science, no matter what, they all fail for the same reasons. Even if you can, find that something seems relatively strong, fundamentally they all fail for the same reason. And that's what I'm talking about right now. In any case, when we do take anecdotes, he wanted to stress that you can find so many different anecdotes about so many different things. And I agree with him. The thing is, you take them all together, you put them all together, and then you try to figure out the scientific reason why. Again, the science does not matter at all. Does not matter at all. It matters, especially in that case. And when you realize the scientific reason why, then you can recognize, oh, okay, so then that result is not so wild. It's not so unexpected then. And if those people are really truly suffering in that way, we acknowledge that and we don't keep trying to gaslight them and tell them that somehow magically it's going to work out in the end because the paper said so, because an expert thinks that it will. And it's not just for a vegan to a person who's trying to be vegan and trying to continue, but it's also for the vegan themselves. I didn't necessarily expect Michael to go on and on about his personal story because they don't want to. I understand that vegans such as himself would prefer not to rely so heavily on anecdotes. But to be perfectly honest, it would have given me some insight into why he was pushing so hard. If he told me that in his personal experience it was working very well for him, then I could understand why he was so motivated and why he would want to push it on other people, for example. And the reason why I couldn't feel comfortable so openly pushing the vegan diet and why I eventually went back and apologized whenever I did for having done it, basically, I would not expect somebody who's actually legitimately experiencing health failure or problems with their health to continue to push a diet just because the science said that it's okay. And so it very much worried me that I couldn't know that information about him. That if he's really trying it for himself, he said that he eats bivalves or something like that. And that gave me this indication that, well, maybe the diet on its own, the vegan diet on its own is not all that great. And I was having problems too, and that's my story. There's a scientific reason why. You know, the history of humans on planet Earth, everything, you put every single thing together, and it paints a bigger picture. But for him, I feel like their ideas are so narrow, so unnecessarily narrow, and dare I say, non-scientific. Basically, you should not gaslight yourself into continuing to try something or continuing to believe something even in the face of the information to the contrary. So there are some people who will say that fiber is essential. If you go on a carnivore diet, you're going to experience fiber deficiency, whatever that is supposed to mean. And who is experiencing fiber deficiency? At least wait until we see that that's what actually happens before you continue to push. This is not what Michael did, but generally speaking, about, you know, fiber deficiency. We need fiber. If I needed fiber, maybe I'd be dead by now. Fiber is not something like B12 or whatever that your body holds on to for years, right? Fiber is something your body basically immediately pushes out as quickly as it can. It doesn't hold on to fiber for later. So if I'm going 2.5 years without eating basically almost no fiber to speak of, how am I still alive? Why am I still healthy? Why can I still do things? How long do I have to wait for the fiber deficiency to kick in? Please stop gaslighting me. The same thing goes for vitamin C. Can I just be gross and just show you my I don't have bleeding gums. Like, what's going on? Like, if I don't have it, I don't have it. I either have scurvy or I don't. And scurvy, I don't think is the kind of thing that it's not the kind of thing that you can hide, right? So then, you know, not Michael, but generally the next step is to say, well, you must be getting some fiber somewhere. You must be getting some vitamin C somewhere. To be honest, we do it the same on the side that's not vegan. We always say that if vegans are long-term vegans, that they're probably sneaking something somewhere. It's a very natural conclusion to come to, but it's still gaslighting no matter what. So it's gaslight. If I were to do that, it would be gaslighting. And if vegans do it, it's also gaslighting. There's no protection here, right? You can be a decent person. You don't have to gaslight people. If I say that my diet is working for me, if I say that, you know, I am not getting any significant amount of vitamin C, I'm only getting whatever is in the meat that I eat, that's what I mean. If I say that I'm not eating fiber, that's what I mean. And so, you know, for Michael, I can't know what's going on with him because he didn't share any personal information. He didn't have to. To be perfectly honest, he did not have to. He's under no obligation to do anything like that. But because of that, I can't be sure what his motivations are. And it made me very wary about him, and it made me very distrustful about him. And that showed. It doesn't help that I have rest and bitch face. That doesn't help. But long story short, I thought Michael was, for the most part, that he carried himself very respectfully, and he didn't necessarily deserve the attitude that I gave him. But to be honest, the circumstances just were what they were. And even still, I'm kind of hard pressed to say that things should have gone any differently. In any case, I'd love to know what you think. I'd love to know what your approach is when you're trying to figure out what is the best diet for human beings. What all do you think you should be putting into consideration? Because the science says that I should be falling out, passing out from from all these deficiencies because I'm not getting my vitamins and I'm not getting my minerals from the fruits and vegetables that I'm not eating. But I don't see that as playing out. And I also see such exponential health benefits that, for a person to sit there and say, but the science says, is so incredibly abusive. I don't know what to say. And so I guess that kind of attitude was met with the same attitude, but it showed more clearly what, that I was just reciprocating something that even though Michael was doing it, he wasn't exactly doing it in a way that was obviously malicious. It's malicious. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And I'd love to know what you all think about that. For me, I think it's just set in stone. But, if you think that somewhere along the line I've messed up, my, logic is not quite right, I am more than happy to hear other people's opinions and other people's ideas about this. In any case, thank you so much for watching to the end. And if you like this video, please consider watching other videos on the channel or liking and subscribing. And if you're interested in having a conversation, please reach out to me in the comment section, and likely I'll get back to you about that. Thank you very much, and have a great day.